Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the founder of Rebundance, an organization that helps people create more and waste less by creating products with repurposed fabric that usually ends up in the landfill. Today, I'm going to teach you how to fix a hole with our Rebundance patches. Rebundance patches are different than standard embroidery patches because they're thinner and more flexible, so they're great for visible mending. These patches can be used to cover up a variety of imperfections in your clothing, like holes or stains, but you can also just use them to embellish your favorite piece of clothes. In this video, I'll fix the holy knees in my 5-year-old kid's pants by adding a layer of lining on the inside of the hole and then adding the patch on the outside to make it strong and stylish. Let's get started. I chose this because it's a common problem and can be tricky to fix. For this project, you'll need 2 patches, a sharp needle and thread, an iron, 2 backing fabrics with interfacing, pins, scissors, and the fabric you're going to patch. You can either use a sewing machine or stitch by hand. In this video, I'll show you with a machine. First, you'll sew in the backing. When you're patching a hole, the backing prevents it from growing and it makes a place for the front patch to adhere to. I pre-ironed this and got it as flat as possible, but the knees are a little stretched out. It's fine, it'll still work great. First, you want to find the right placement for the patch. This can be tricky because the holes are in different places, so do your best to align it. Get a pin and put it on the outer side of each patch so you will know where to place the backing. Don't actually pin the patch on, this is just a guide outside of the patch. Carefully turn the piece inside out so you don't poke yourself. Place the backing in the marks to align it. The backing fabric has a layer of iron-on interfacing for stability. You can buy this on the Rebundance website with your patches, or you can make your own with scraps. The interfacing is optional. Now you will pin the fabric in place so it doesn't shift when you sew it down. Place the pins in a circle around the edge and 1 or 2 in the middle. If pinning is difficult or the fabric is bunching too much, you can also use heat and bond to iron on the backing. Just use some parchment paper between the layers so it doesn't stick to the other side of the pants. Because these are tiny pants, I'm taking off the extension table from my sewing machine and leaving just the main arm. This helps for tube shapes like sleeves or pants. If you're working on a flat piece, you can leave it on. Slide the wide part of the pants onto the sewing machine and go to the far left side of the area that you're going to sew. This may actually be the hardest part of the whole project, getting this narrow, tiny 5-year-old pants onto the sewing machine, so bear with me here. If your project is smaller, then you can hand stitch this part or iron it on and tack sew it down. You'll set your machine to a standard straight stitch at 2.5. Start on the left side of the backing. You're stitching in a long zigzag up and down across the circle. Put the foot down and the needle down and take the first pin out so you don't stitch over it. Sew straight from the top left edge to the bottom left edge. When you get to the bottom, you'll stitch in reverse at a slight diagonal to the right. When you get to the top edge, you'll sew forward again at a slight diagonal to the right. Continue taking the pins out as you go. You can sew right up to the edge or a tiny bit over it, but not too much or else your stitches will show on the front. To get the diagonal angle, you can pick up the presser foot with the needle down and then turn the fabric slightly. Keep doing this back and forth all the way across to the right side of the fabric backing. On your last strip, stitch a few back and forth at the end to secure the thread and then snip it off. Here's the finished backing. It's a bit hard to see the zigzag because I forgot to use high contrast thread. Turn the pants right side out and snip off any extra threads. Don't worry if it isn't pretty, no one is going to see that part. It's meant to be strong and flexible, not visible. Now we're at the ironing board to iron on the patch. Place the patch over the stitching and try to hide the stitches as best as you can. Orient the patch the way you want it. I'm trying to get this Jolly Roger straight up and down. Cover it with a thin piece of cotton to protect it. I don't know about you, but my iron sometimes gets starch or little other goo on it, so I like to be on the safe side. Set your iron to medium hot or whatever is safe for your fabric. These patches are 100% cotton, and most are either cotton or a cotton poly blend, but your item might be a more delicate fabric, so then you'd turn the heat down and iron it longer. A little steam is okay, but we don't want it to get damp. You want to press it for 5 to 20 seconds. I finger press it down a little. You can't check how it's doing when it's hot because it'll unstick. Let it cool down and then check if it's done. So now we'll do the next one. I'll tell you why I picked these patches. I was obsessed with cartoon pirates in high school. My calculus notebook had a Jolly Roger on it, and I doodled pirates and ships and parrots all over it. So I was unnecessarily happy when I found this fabric to upcycle. Great, this looks and feels secure and ready to go. The last step is to hand stitch around the edge of the patch. Stitching makes it last longer and prevents fraying. We're doing a very simple but strong stitch using the existing embroidery as a guide. Thread your needle and make a knot at the end. Start from the wrong side. Stitch parallel to the left edge of the patch on just the pants, and then a parallel stitch on the right side of the embroidery, about 1/4 inch in. Go back and forth from a stitch on the pants along the outer edge, and then a stitch on the inside of the embroidery. Just follow along those 2 lines back and forth all the way around. You can choose a thread that matches or use one that's a high contrast if you want it to look punk rock. My needle was dull, so I had to switch to a sharper one. Do not suffer with a bad needle. This part is slow and takes time and lets me ramble about how important slow fashion is for the environment. These pants probably would have been thrown out. They were too worn to sell at a thrift store. But now they will get years more life because we're constantly getting and giving hand-me-downs between friends with kids. Textile production has a huge impact on the environment. It's a big carbon emitter. It takes water resources, causes deforestation, releases toxins. The list just goes on and on. So it actually does make a difference when we make our clothes last longer and use materials that are gentler on the earth. Okay, rant over. Stitch a little past where you started. Then go to the inside of the fabric and make a back stitch and a knot to finish. Snip, and you're done. I love how these turned out. My kid wore them right away and is asking for more patches. You can find lots of upcycled patches on the Rebundance website. If you want more content like this, follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow on Instagram, or sign up for the newsletter on the website. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.